Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi meets Qatari counterpart in Doha, discusses ways to boost the ties between the two nations, to meet Amir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad today. Former US President Donald Trump sparks controversy again, says he would dump NATO members who do not pay up their share. NATO rebukes Trump's remarks, announces record defense spending. Israel vows more action against Hamas in Rafah amid global calls for restraint, launches deadly airstrikes on Lebanon in retaliation to Hezbollah rocket fire that killed an Israeli soldier. On the second leg of his West Asia tour, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi reached Qatar. On his arrival, he met Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani. Discussions covered expanding bilateral cooperation in areas such as trade and investment, energy, finance, among others, were also held during the meeting. Later in the day, Prime Minister will hold a bilateral meeting with Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad, the Emir of Qatar, and key dignitaries there. This is Prime Minister's second visit to Qatar. The bilateral relationship between India and Qatar has been steadily growing, and that includes a comprehensive span including political ties, trade and investment linkages, strong energy partnership, and also ties in the field of culture, education and security. A detailed report ahead.
On the second leg of his West Asia visit, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi reached Qatar. This will be his second visit to the nation. Prime Minister Modi had last visited Qatar in 2016. Amir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, had paid a state visit to India in March 2015. Prime Minister Modi met the Amir during the COP28 summit at Dubai in December 2023. The two leaders also met on the sidelines of UN General Assembly 2023, which marked 50 years of India-Qatar diplomatic relations. Bilateral trade and investment between Qatar and India during financial year 2022-23 was pegged at $20 billion. Qatari investment in India stood at over $1.5 billion last year. Indian investment in Qatar has been over $450 million. Over 15,000 Indian companies operate in Qatar. Qatar is also the largest supplier of LNG to India, accounting for over 48% of India's global LNG procurement. India regularly participates in the biennial Doha International Maritime Defence Exhibition and Conference (DIMDEX) in Qatar. The second edition of bilateral exercise Zair al-Bahar was held in August 2021. Indian naval and coast guard ships regularly visit Qatar, highlighting the cultural connect between the two countries and engaging with the Indian diaspora. Over 800,000 Indian nationals reside in Qatar, forming one of the largest expat communities of Indians abroad. Year 2019 was also celebrated as India-Qatar Year of Culture. In the wake of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav celebrations, a 3-day cultural festival, Passage to India, was held in March 2023 in Qatar. Indian Sports Centre in Doha made it to the Guinness World Record for conducting a yoga session with maximum number of nationalities. The Indian Cultural Centre organizes cultural events and activities in Qatar. The visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Qatar is expected to further deepen the India-Qatar partnership.
India's Union Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Singh Thakur inaugurated the BES Expo 2024 at the 28th International Conference and Exhibition on Broadcast and Media Technology. The event is organized by Broadcast Engineering Society in New Delhi. The program was also attended by CEO of Prasar Bharati, Gaurav Trivedi. The Union Minister conferred the Lifetime Achievement Award to former Chief of Indian Space and Research Organization. Speaking at the event, the Minister hailed the contribution of Doordarshan in entertaining and educating people of India.
Prasar Bharati has played a pivotal role in shaping the narrative of our nation. From the grainy, black and white screens of Doordarshan to its HD avatar today, and now we have the 4K digital transmission, also from the analog medium to the DRM and now FM of Akashvani, the diverse programming of Doordarshan and All India Radio has informed, educated, and entertained generations of Indians. From the analog era to the dynamic digital landscape of today, our broadcasters have traversed a path marked by resilience, innovation, and unwavering commitment to excellence.
India's top court, the Supreme Court, on Thursday directed the State Bank of India to stop issuing electoral bonds immediately and submit all the details to the Election Commission by March 6th. The poll panel will make all the donations public within a week of the receipt of information. Electoral bonds are money instruments that act as promissory notes or bearer bonds that can be purchased by individuals or companies in India. They are issued specifically for the contribution of funds to the political parties. Israel vowed to continue with powerful operation in Gaza's Rafah, even as calls mounted for it to hold off sending troops into the territory's overcrowded far southern city. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is under growing international pressure to hold off the conflict, gave no indication as to when the offensive might take place or where the hundreds of thousands of people now crammed into Rafah might go. His comments came a day after talks in Cairo on a possible ceasefire and the handover of hostages held by Hamas ended inconclusively, stoking fears among the displaced Palestinians that Israel would soon storm Rafah, which abuts Egypt. Earlier, Netanyahu said that Israel will fight until complete victory, and this includes a powerful action in Rafah as well. Israel carried out extensive airstrikes on villages across southern Lebanon on Wednesday in response to a deadly rocket attack on northern Israel by Hezbollah. Hezbollah and the Israeli military have been exchanging fire along the Israel-Lebanon border for more than 4 months now, after the Lebanese armed group launched rockets across the disputed frontier. Hezbollah did not announce any operations on Wednesday. The head of its executive council said that Israel's attacks onto Lebanese territory on Wednesday cannot pass without a response. An Israeli government spokesperson told journalists that rocket barrages from Lebanon on Wednesday morning had left 1 Israeli woman soldier dead and another 8 hospitalized. Meanwhile, government reiterated that Israel is not interested in a war on 2 fronts, but if provoked, they will respond forcefully. The UK Conservative Party is bracing for electoral defeat in 2 previously safe seats. A by-poll, or by-election as it is known in the UK, has been called in 3 parts of the country over the next 2 weeks. 2 of them take place on Thursday. TD India's Stuart Smith has more from London.
Both former safe seats are predicted to swing from a lawmaker in the governing Conservative Party to a lawmaker in Labour, the largest opposition party. Losing just one of those seats would mean this government has absorbed more by-election defeats in a single parliament than any government since the 1960s. It's no surprise for a Conservative Party which nationally is struggling to secure 25% support compared to Labour's 44% support, a 19 percentage point lead. But recent scandals over anti-Semitism amongst Labour Party lawmakers have reportedly weakened the Labour Party's lead and could affect the share of votes its by-election candidates receive. The Conservative vote could be boosted by positive comments from the Bank of England on Wednesday that it's seeing the beginning of a pickup in the economy, which the Prime Minister jumped on as evidence his government's plan is working. Local media reports the top issues for those going to the polls on Thursday are falling public services and rising prices. The seat of Wellingborough is being contested after Conservative lawmaker Peter Bone subjected a staff member to bullying and sexual misconduct, according to an independent parliamentary inquiry. His partner will be running as the Conservative candidate. The seat of Kingswood used to be held by Conservative lawmaker Chris Skidmore, but he resigned, citing Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's environmental policies and government plans for new oil and gas licences. Stuart Smith in London, reporting for DD India.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that Joe Biden would be a better US president for Russia than Donald Trump and dismissed concerns over his counterpart's age and equity for the role. Asked in a state television interview to choose between Biden and Trump, Putin said that the US leader was more experienced and predictable, adding that Russia would work with any US leader who wins the trust of the American people. The Russian president's comments came a day after Biden accused Trump of having bowed down to a Russian dictator, as he urged Republicans in Congress to defy Trump and back more funding for Ukraine.
Biden, he's more experienced, more predictable. He's an old-school politician. But we will work with any US leader who the American people have confidence in. When I met Biden in Switzerland, yes, it was 3 years ago, but it does not matter. Even then, people were saying that Biden was incompetent. But I did not see anything of this sort. Yes, he kept looking at his papers, but to be honest, I kept doing the same. So there was nothing peculiar.
The scaffolding around Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris is starting to be removed, revealing the newly installed spire for the first time since a fire ravaged the historic Paris landmark 5 years ago. It's an emotional unveiling for some, a symbol of strength and resilience. DD India's correspondent Tony Waterman has more from Paris.
For the millions of people that visit Notre Dame Cathedral every year, there hasn't been much to see since 2019. Large barriers like this block the entire entrance, and parts of the building are still obscured by scaffolding. But now that is slowly being peeled away. The new spire, which had been protected by 70,000 pieces of scaffolding, is now visible. And at the top sits a golden rooster and cross. The bird has flaming wings, which is meant to symbolize a phoenix rising from the ashes in much the same way this famed cathedral is doing after a devastating inferno ripped through the attic 5 years ago. Tens of millions of people around the world watched in real time as the 19th century spire toppled over, engulfed in flames. And now many gather here to see its recreation restored to its rightful place.
It's so beautiful to see it up. All the really hard work that was going on, all the special people, the specialists that sort of worked on the organs, on the construction. It was amazing.
It's still unknown exactly what sparked the blaze. Investigators believe either a cigarette or a short circuit in the electrical system, but whatever the cause, officials are taking precautions against history repeating itself. A sprinkler system has been installed right below the spire. Now, the scaffolding will continue to be removed in the coming weeks, providing the first glimpses of what the restored part of the cathedral will look like. The building itself is slated to reopen on December 8th, but it could take an additional 40 years before this iconic landmark is fully restored. Tony Waterman in Paris, France, reporting for DD India.
Intensifying this week's demonstrations against election results in Pakistan, protesters gathered in Quetta, the provincial capital of Balochistan, for a sit-in stir on Wednesday. Workers and supporters of different political parties blocked all the main highways linking Balochistan with other provinces in protest against what they alleged was rigging of votes. Shops and public transport services in Quetta came to a standstill as local political parties called for a total shutdown. A political stalemate continues in Pakistan after an inconclusive election that ended with Shehbaz Sharif chosen to continue leading the country. Efforts were underway to get the second largest party to join the government to ensure stability. The new government could also face new political tensions with independent members of parliament backed by jailed former Premier Imran Khan, forming the largest group in the legislature. Indonesian Defence Minister Prabowo Subianto has asserted his triumph in the presidential election as unofficial tallies indicate a significant lead against his rivals, averting a second round. It is clear that Prabowo has garnered the implicit endorsement of outgoing President Joko Widodo. While rival Anies Baswedan vows to honour the outcome, he urges the supporters to oversee the official vote count. Millions participated in the crucial election. DD India's Patrick Falk shares more from Singapore.
Well, Preeti, it's certainly not looking encouraging for the two former provincial governors running against Prabowo Subianto. Anies Baswedan and Ganjar Pranowo haven't conceded defeat yet, and they've been calling on people to wait for the official final tally. But the unofficial quick count shows Prabowo Subianto comfortably in the lead. It does appear to be decisive, and these unofficial results have been accurate in the past. There have been some reports of voting irregularities and electoral violations, which Anies Baswedan and Ganjar Pranowo's campaign teams say they are investigating, but they haven't provided any evidence. There's also going to be some additional counting. You mentioned some of that bad weather. There's also been some other logistical challenges that meant some people weren't able to cast their ballots yesterday, but this isn't expected to have any major impact on the outcome. Prabowo himself has called on people to wait on the final results as well, but he does appear to be in a celebratory mood. President Joko Widodo congratulated his defence minister this morning, and speaking to his supporters on Wednesday night, he said that this was a victory for all Indonesians, and he pledged to govern for everyone, no matter their ethnicity, religion or social background.
We're heading for a short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Ahead of next weekend's primary vote, war of words continues between Donald Trump and Nikki Haley. Rohit Sharma to lead India at the Men's T20 World Cup in USA and West Indies.
India that invents. India that innovates. India that excites. India that invites. Land of possibilities. Teeming with opportunities. Watch India Ideas each Thursday, 8 p.m. only on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Live. Let's get you more international updates. Former US President Donald Trump said that he's not going to protect NATO allies who fail to pay their fair share. Trump sparked sharp criticism from Western leaders after saying he had told NATO members the US would not defend those who fail to spend enough on defense and would even encourage Russia to attack them.
Thank you. I think we're going to have a big victory. But one of the heads of the country stood up and said, does that mean that if we don't pay the bills, that you're not going to protect us? I said, that's exactly what it means, exactly. I'm not going to protect you. And we got our allies to pay their fair share and bring it in over $400 billion to NATO. They weren't paying their bills. You've been reading about it. I've been saying, look, if they're not going to pay, we're not going to protect, okay?
Meanwhile, NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg warned Europe against trying to go it alone on defense after Trump's comments had prompted fresh debate over whether the continent can continue to rely on protection from the US. Stoltenberg said in an interview that 80% of NATO's defense expenditure came from non-European Union countries. So it was clear that Europe's security depended not just on European Union itself, but on other NATO members.
European allies should do more on defense, and that's exactly what they're doing, and they need to continue to do so. That has been the main message from NATO for years, and I welcome the fact that now we see action. So that's important. But this should be part of a transatlantic joint effort. It should be part of the idea North America and Europe, we defend each other. It's good for North America, it's good for Europe. And and the European Union cannot defend Europe. 80% of NATO's defense expenditure come from non-EU NATO allies.
More support for Ukraine is at the top of the agenda for NATO defense ministers during their meeting in Brussels. The 31-nation military alliance says it is focusing on increasing defense spending and providing more ammunition to Ukraine. DD India's correspondent Ishan Garg gets us the details from Brussels.
Mobilizing more support for Ukraine. That's the message from the NATO here. The Secretary General of the 31-nation military alliance says that the bloc is going to move towards procuring more ammunition for Ukraine. He says in the short term, the group is relying on its own stockpile and purchases from other nations. But in the long term, Stoltenberg says countries will have to ramp up their defense production to meet Ukraine's demands as it enters the third year of its war with Russia.
In the past few months, NATO has agreed contracts worth $10 billion. And just this week, Germany launched construction of a new ammunition factory in Lower Saxony. At full capacity, it will produce around 200,000 artillery shells per year.
This message of solidarity was front and center when NATO members and 24 other partners who make up the Ukraine Defense Contact Group held a meeting on Wednesday. Another meeting of the NATO-Ukraine Council is taking place on Thursday. These ministerial meetings are setting the stage for a NATO summit in Washington later this year. But they also come at a time when members of the bloc have been criticized by US presidential hopeful Donald Trump for not spending enough on their own defense. There are concerns in Brussels that the US could pull support from NATO if Trump wins the presidency in November. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says those comments undermine the bloc's commitment to common defense, and he expects the US's support to continue, not only for the sake of Europe's security, but also for America's own defenses. He says countries are spending more money as they have agreed to invest $380 billion just this year. That's 11% higher than last year and accounts for nearly 2% of the total GDP of the NATO countries, even though countries are not individually hitting that 2% GDP target. Ishan Garg in Brussels, reporting for DD India.
Unhinged. That's how Nikki Haley described Donald Trump on Wednesday as the war of words continues between the two Republicans vying to become the party's nominee for U.S. presidentship. Haley, the former ambassador to the United Nations, took to the airwaves to lambast her ex-boss over disparaging comments the former president made about her husband, who is serving in the American military. In the past hours, Trump hit back at a rally in South Carolina ahead of next weekend's primary vote, which he is expected to win. Our U.S. correspondent Benji Haya gets us the details.
So then, certainly no love lost on Valentine's Day between the presidential candidates as the race heats up in South Carolina, where early voting is already underway. A win there would put Donald Trump firmly on course to be the Republican Party's nominee to take on Joe Biden again for the White House, and it would likely end Nikki Haley's campaign. She's come behind Trump in all the other primary votes in this process to decide the nominee. And as former South Carolina governor, a defeat in her own home state would be hard to recover from. Initially shy of attacking Trump, Haley's finally turned fire in his direction, claiming only she can be the one to beat Biden. And she's joined several fellow Republicans in criticising Trump's remarks made last weekend, when he said that his administration wouldn't defend some Western allies in the NATO alliance if they hadn't paid enough in defence and they came under attack. But she says she will still support Trump if he is the Republican candidate, though she cast doubt on whether the American people would vote for a convicted criminal. Trump, of course, faces 91 criminal charges under 4 indictments, most in relation to his alleged mishandling of classified documents and attempts to overturn the 2020 election that he lost. That trial for that was scheduled for early March, but it's been postponed. Benji Haya in Washington, reporting for DD India.
In Hungary, hundreds of people gathered in front of Presidential and Prime Minister's office in Budapest on Wednesday evening, protesting against Viktor Orban's government after a presidential pardon scandal that risks damaging the core appeal of Orban's fathers. Now, two of Orban's key political allies, President Katalin Novak and former Justice Minister Judith Varga, were brought down by the scandal within a week. Veteran Conservative Prime Minister Orban has sought to defuse the scandal by submitting a constitutional amendment to Parliament last week, depriving the President of the right to pardon crimes committed against children. Novak resigned 2 days later, but Orban hasn't spoken publicly since then and has made no comment at all on the two resignations. A gunfire incident occurred outside a landmark railroad station in Kansas City, Missouri, where the Kansas City Chiefs were celebrating their Super Bowl victory. One person was killed and around 21 people were wounded, including several children. Police Chief Stacey Graves confirmed two armed individuals were in custody. The incident occurred near Union Station, where the parade and celebrations were taking place. Around 800 law enforcement officers were present at the rally and parade. Children's Mercy Kansas City received patients and invited parents to contact the medical center if their child might be in their care. Let's get you weather updates now. New York City gets hit by heavy snowfall as a winter storm hammered the northeastern United States, causing traffic disruptions in the city and prompting public schools to move their classes to the online mode. The winter storm also prompted Westchester County in New York State to declare a local state of emergency. The heavy snowfall hampered visibility in New York, leading the government to enforce reduced speeds for drivers on highways. The impact of the winter storm has extended beyond New York, affecting various states in the northeastern United States. Data indicated that the storm has caused power outages for more than 100,000 of homes and businesses in the northeastern region. A series of heavy snowfall gripped Massachusetts. Dashcam video captured the moment an ambulance swerved to avoid colliding with a vehicle rolling towards it on Wednesday. The ambulance was traveling to Peabody, transporting a patient to a hospital in Boston when it spotted the car rolling towards it. The patient in the ambulance survived safely at the hospital. A landslide in Davao de Oro province in Philippines has left around 85 people dead and 38 missing. The landslide hit a mining area in Mako, burying homes, vehicles and dozens of people. Local authorities have ordered mandatory evacuations for 5 nearby villages, affecting over 5,000 people. The region is known for its frequent typhoons, earthquakes and volcanic eruptions and is located in the Pacific Ring of Fire. Pollution levels in Thailand's capital Bangkok reached unhealthy levels on Thursday as authorities urged residents to work from home. The air quality of Bangkok is 15 times higher than the recommended level by the World Health Organization, making it the world's 8th most polluted city on Thursday. Air pollution is caused by a combination of crop-related burning, industrial pollution and heavy traffic, and a smoky haze covered Bangkok's skyline. Bangkok residents complained of itchy eyes and difficulty in breathing. On to sports now. Indian captain Rohit Sharma is unbeaten after scoring his half-century, while Ravindra Jadeja is equally solid at the other end. India were 93 for 3 at lunch against England in the ongoing third test in Rajkot. India were reduced to 33 for 3 inside the first 10 overs as England bowlers Mark Wood and Tom Harley got the early breakthroughs. Earlier, Indian skipper Rohit Sharma won the toss and opted to bat first in the game. The host team handed test caps to Sarfaraz Khan and Jurel. India are playing with a total of 4 chances, with Ravindra Jadeja and Mohammad Siraj back in the playing 11. Rohit Sharma is set to lead Team India in the upcoming 2020 World Cup in June. Hardik Pandya will be the vice-captain. The announcement by the Board of Control for Cricket in India's secretary ends days of suspense surrounding the leadership for the global event in the Caribbean and the US. Rohit Sharma played for India's T20 side for the first time since the T20 World Cup semi-final in 2022, when he turned out for the game for the home T20 series against Afghanistan. All right, that's it in this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and also Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.